The 2019-2020 Chicago Bulls season is officially over. And quite frankly, I've never been happier for a Bulls season to be over. And let me just tell you, that is pathetic. But that is where we are with the current state of affairs of the Chicago Bulls. What is going on, y'all? FaizSportsTalk back at it with another video, of course, talking about the Chicago Bulls. And here to talk about the fact that we know now the NBA season is officially resuming, but without the Bulls. Yes, they're resuming with 22 teams out of 30, and the 8 teams, part of the 8 teams that are going to be left out are the Chicago Bulls, who are now officially eliminated. So let's talk about, obviously, where the Bulls go from here, right? The offseason has started unofficially, officially, whatever you want to call it. And now let's take a look at what we can expect in the offseason. Before I get into that, if you're a Bulls fan, make sure to go ahead and subscribe. And you clicked on the video, so I know you are. So go ahead and subscribe if you haven't. That's the best way you guys can support me. Also, go ahead and follow me on my social media accounts down below if you want to help me out. Go ahead and sub to my Patreon. All the links are down in the description. All right, get to that, guys. But with that being said, let's get into it, talk about what needs to be done in the offseason. Now, before I get started, I do want to point out one quick thing. This is not my official offseason preview video or anything like that. No, I'm going to be coming out with that later on, so don't get it twisted. This is just me coming on and kind of giving you guys a update, a quick little, update on kind of the current state of affairs for the Bulls and what we should look forward to in the offseason, okay? Because, again, there has not been much to talk about, obviously, other than the huge front office changes that have taken place, which I will get into in a second here. But really, I'll come out with my offseason preview and whatnot, but here to just give you guys an update on where things stand and what we should expect moving forward, okay? So last time we saw the Bulls, okay, which was a long time ago, and we won't be seeing them play for a long time either, by the way, the Bulls finished with a record of 22-43. A pathetic record, obviously. I expected the Bulls to be a borderline playoff team, but I should have known that as long as we had the incompetent head coach that is Jim Boylen, that was never going to happen. And the Bulls, quite frankly, didn't even come close to sniffing the playoffs like I thought they would. And Orlando and Washington were the teams that are going to Disney World for the resumption of the NBA season. And the Bulls were, way down the list, obviously. And so they are not part of the 22 teams that are going to Disney World, to Orlando for the season resuming. They are part of the 8 teams that are being left home. So that is what the current state of affairs for the Bulls was last time we saw them. 22-43, just flat out awful, right? There was some good, some bad, which I'll get into. But let's talk about next steps, okay? Offseason started. What's happening now? What's happening? Okay, well, from what I have read, Arturos Karnisovas, the new vice president of basketball operations, basically the man in charge of running the show, okay? He is making his way to Chicago. Believe it or not, folks, he actually hasn't been to Chicago since he got hired as the VP because of the whole coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. And so he is actually I believe making his way to Chicago soon, and he's gonna, finally get a chance to meet with everybody. But again, it's been all virtual because of, the travel restrictions and whatnot. So that is one quick update that I did want to point out to you guys. But point being is, let's talk about all the new faces. Okay, so I just mentioned Arturos Karnisovas, the vice president of basketball operations. Basically, he took over John Paxson's role. Okay. Then we've got Mark Eversley, who is the new general manager for the Chicago Bulls. He took over Dar Foreman's role. Now, again, I'm not going to get into my thoughts on these guys because I've done videos, given my extensive thoughts when they were hired. You guys can go check out my recent videos. Just search them up. They're there, okay? Then the Bulls also hired Pat Connolly, the vice president, or I should say the new vice president of player personnel, and also J.J. Polk, who is the new assistant GM. So a number of front office changes, not just the VP and GM. Obviously, those are the biggest ones, but there's been other front office changes and more to come. More to come, by the way. This is not complete. Okay, so love the new front office hires. I've talked about them extensively. Love it. Okay, what's first on the agenda? We all know what it is. The elephant in the room is Jim Boylen. Okay, and again, not going to spend too much time here because there's not much to talk about here. Okay, we need to move on from Jim Boylen in terms of, obviously letting him go, firing him, whatever you want to call it, being relieved of his duties. That's probably what they're going to say. But again, I expect it to happen, not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And if you ask me, Faiz, when is it going to happen? I would say sooner rather than later. I do expect the decision to come fairly soon. And the reason I say that is because I do think Arturos is a guy that likes to work quickly. I think the only reason Jim Boylen had not been fired till now is because they were waiting on what would happen with the NBA season. And if by any chance the Bulls had been invited to go to Orlando, let's say they had expanded the playoff teams or the potential playoff teams, then, there was a chance that the Bulls' new regime that would have just let Jim Boylen finish out the season, knowing even if the Bulls, were to go there, they weren't going to do much. I mean, we all know that, right? And so I'm guessing that's what Arturos was waiting for. Well, now he doesn't have to wait anymore because we now know the Bulls are officially eliminated. So he is hopefully going to make that firing sooner rather than later. So again, nothing really to talk about here. Jim Boylen needs to go. And as far as who we need to hire him, again, I've given my candidates, a couple of guys I like. Kenny Atkinson. I like Adrian Griffin. I like Mark Jackson. I don't want Tom Thibodeau. Please don't talk to me about Tibbs. Again, by the way, he's probably the front runner for the next job. So let the Knicks take him, but I don't want Tibbs back. And I don't think that's happening. But Dave Yeager, guys like that. So I definitely think this is the first item on the agenda is to fire Jim Boylen and get a new coach in here. So once Jim Boylen is fired, because that's really the easy stuff. That's the obvious stuff. We know that, right? Once that is done, now Arturos and Mark Eversley and these guys, now they can start playing around with the roster. Now they can kind of see, okay, who do we like, who we don't like, who do we want to keep, who do we want to get rid of, who do we want to trade. They can play around with the roster. And there's a couple of decisions to be made, a couple of decisions not to be made. One in particular, Otto Porter Jr., his contract is expiring. But like I said, there is no decision to be made here because he's got a player option of $28.5 million. He's not turning that down. No chance at all. Otto Porter Jr. is turning that down, so you can bet your money that he is going to pick up that option and he will be on the Bulls roster next year. So again, I'm not even counting that as a decision they need to make because he's not turning that, especially in this environment with, the potential of the salary cap going down and the fact that nobody in their right mind is ever going to pay Otto Porter Jr. that money. He's going to pick up that player option. But a couple other guys that are expiring, Chris Dunn, I need to make a decision on him. He's going to be a restricted free agent if the Bulls choose so. Denzel Valentine, another guy, the Bulls need to make a decision on him. His contract is expiring. Shaquille Harrison is another guy. So, again, these are not the core pieces. These are not the Zach LaVines, the Lauries, the Wendells. But they're still, pieces that can free up cap space or we can extend. Now, again, just my gut feeling, I don't think that the Bulls will bring these guys back in Chris Dunn or Valentine. But again, I'm not saying officially. I will give my full thoughts on that in a later video. But just a gut feeling right now, probably not going to happen. But the Bulls front office will obviously make those decisions. And then once that is done, it's going to really be taking a look at what they can do with this roster and what they want to do. And then free agency is going to happen. But all of those things, folks, are a lot later on. Free agency is not till October. The draft is not till October. And so a lot of those things aren't going to happen till then. So from now until October, I believe what is going to happen is you're going to see a bunch of, front office / coaching changes. And so that is going to be a lot of the administrative stuff. And then you'll obviously see the Bulls make decisions on their players. And then really this offseason, because of how unique it is too, it's going to be difficult, I believe, for the Bulls to kind of really do much. And so I would not expect the new regime to come in and just, move everything left and right. I think they're going to just come in, do what needs to be done, But this first year is all about assessing what you have. So what they're going to do this year is just kind of assess what they have, cut out the excess, and then I believe next offseason is when they really will go ahead and see, okay, can we get somebody in here? So this offseason, even though, the Bulls could potentially do something, I don't think they will. It's going to be more next offseason when I believe if you were looking for that big splash, that's probably when it's going to happen, not this offseason. So again, what to expect? A lot of just administrative coaching stuff and some player decisions. That's about it. It's about assessment, and it's about developing the relationships and developing the right kind of culture here in Chicago, which is what I want them to do. So that's really what you can expect, folks. But yeah, listen, like I said, I'm going to be bringing out more Bulls content, a ton more now. I'll actually do player analysis on pretty much all the Bulls players, and maybe we can go from there. But yeah, if you guys did like this video, please, man, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. Please make sure to subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.